Adim lesimcha kahal kadosh, beruchim abaim to everyone. Today, Wednesday, the 19th day of Nisan, the 20th of April. Today's breakfast and class, graciously sponsored by Charles Elman and family, Le'ilui Nishmat, his beloved mother, Esther Bat Oro Elman Alea Shalom. Yeh ratzon that the words of Torah, her neshama, have an aliyah in Gan Eden. Amen. Additionally, today's class dedicated Le'ilui Nishmat, Moshe ben Ishak Isaac, Vechana Gittel Kahan, by his daughter Chani Kahan and family. Yeh ratzon that his neshama have an aliyah in Gan Eden. Amen. Additionally, today's class graciously dedicated for the refuah shelema of Abraham Ishak Sahi ben Aliza Cohen, and as well as the refuah shelema of Mr. Charlie Saka Yeshaya ben Lora. May they have a refuah shelema among the cholim of all of Am Israel. Amen.
Amen.
As we catched up yesterday with the day-to-day counting of the Omer, today we are talking about the fourth day of the Omer. So the fourth day of the Omer, we have two particular tzaddikim connected to this day. First of all, the host of the week, Abraham Avinu alav shalom, and the special guest of today, Moshe Rabbeinu. From a spiritual perspective, Moshe Rabbeinu represents a sephirah by the name of Netzach. Netzach in Hebrew has two meanings. Number one, eternity. Number two, nitzachon, victory. Another word to Netzach means endurance, something that has a long life, something that lasts almost forever. So the exercise of today, Ben Adam Lamakom, what do I do to reinforce my godly relationship? So the Sfartem Lachem message of the day says, reinforce your emunah in HaKadosh Baruch Hu, because HaKadosh Baruch Hu is eternal. And that's why we call him Melech Malchei HaMelachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Not only that, it says the Mefarshim in Gemara Berachot that life comes and goes, creations come and go, matters in the world happen, but the essence of godliness remains alive. And not only that, it says that a person should also devote a few moments of the day to think how HaKadosh Baruch Hu constantly showers the person with a tremendous amount of kindness and blessings. Who would have thought that we are going to have such a magnificent breakfast in honor of Pesach? And we have it. And we have it. Or you go to the kosher marketplaces and you find an unbelievable variety of kosher food. And when you travel to a city, it's not difficult to find a place to pray, kosher food, a mikveh, whatever we spiritually need. Obviously, if you go to normal places, if you go to a place that there is nothing, it's difficult, because one of the things that support synagogues and kosher restaurants is the vitality of the community. So if you have an active community, irrelevant of how big or how small, that definitely helps the situation. And that's why there are Chabad houses in almost every city in America. Why? Because they are neshamot. They are, as a great rabbi said, I don't look at the body, he says. I look at the neshama. If they are Yehudim, they are potential customers. So therefore it says, how HaKadosh Baruch Hu brings blessings to the world, individually and collectively. Let's say certain countries have a tremendous amount of natural resources. Now, we're not going to say countries' names, because then it's going to become a political and a geography type of lesson for the day. But let's be honest here. many countries of the world, they do have natural resources that are God-given blessings. The problem is that we have politicians and we have corruption, and that prevent of the blessing to be split and to be given and to be developed in the proper way. But a person understands that the more we count our blessings and we understand the presence of godliness into our life, then a natural reaction will be the Shema, especially Be'ahavta et Hashem Elokecha. We know there is a positive commandment of the Torah to love Hashem, and we say this several times a day. Bechol levavecha, ubchol nafshecha, ubchol meodecha. And each one of these words represents a different way of loving God. You can love God through your heart, you can love God through your soul, and you can love God whichever God gave you as a person. The heart and soul means, how do I demonstrate my love to God? Okay? How do I demonstrate my love to Hashem? One easy way, he says, express your gratitude. Express your gratitude to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Number one. Number two, the more you recognize the kindness, the easier the love becomes. It's like marriage. The way you love your spouse, there are different stages. In the early stages of marriage, we all agree that it's very, very challenging. We agree on that? You went through that?
Yes, sir.
Me too. Baruch Hashem. There are some that are mahmirim and they still going through after 20 years of marriage. That's a different class. But the reality is, the Torah understands, you're married to a wonderful lady, so you should be smiling every moment. I know you are. Beautiful. Anyways, the Torah understands that the relationship between husband and wife is not automatic. You dated somebody, you decide to marry, and everything is going to be excellent. I wish that is that easy. But the Torah itself tells you, for the first year of your life, Besimach et ishto. You have one goal. Make your wife happy. Therefore, you are exempt of joining the Jewish army. Pasuk in Perashah Sefer Devarim, when the Torah talks about going to war, goes further and it says, there are two ways of serving Hashem. One is out of fear and one is out of love. Although fear sounds scary, but the fear factor in serving Hashem is all in the mind of the person. Sometimes the person may say, I better do this mitzvah so I get the blessing that I want. And if I don't do this, I will not be able to get it. So that is not the ultimate goal. The ultimate goal, which it doesn't happen overnight, is to serve God with love. What does it mean? I'm so grateful and I'm so thankful and I have so many blessings in my life that whatever God asks me to do, I will do. It's like you're very happy in the company that you work for, and they ask you for a favor. Are you going to deny or are you going to do it? Hazaku Baruch. You're going to do it, and you're going to do it great, and you're going to do it in an expeditious manner, and you're going to be very happy that you're able to do something for them. Even though technically you say, listen, I work 40 hours, I don't do more than 40 hours. If I'm going to go over 40 hours, you have to pay me overtime. You know, that kind of mentality in the business world is definitely not the ideal. Although in some industries, maybe strong protocols in this matter, but if a company or someone asks you a favor, you usually will say yes. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu is not asking us really a favor. is giving us a manual of instructions. This is what you need to do in your life in order for you and I to develop a great level of relationship. And where do we find such a concept in the Sefirah of today? Moshe Rabbeinu and Abraham Avinu. Now I see the Bar Mitzvah boy, so I'll talk something on his honor as well. All right? So today we talk about the fourth day, Abraham and Moshe. You remember well that when Hashem approached Moshe, and it says, God says to Moshe, Moshe, I want you to redeem the Jewish people. What was Moshe's answers? I don't want to. Who am I? I'm barely able to talk, says Moshe. And yet, finally, after 7 days of negotiation, Hashem and Moshe Rabbeinu came to an agreement, and Moshe Rabbeinu accepted to become the faithful leader or the faithful shepherd, the way the Zohar Kadosh calls Moshe Rabbeinu. How many times did we give a hardship to Moshe Rabbeinu in the desert? Yes, how many? 5 times 2? Hazaku Baruch. Beautiful. Okay. 10 times. 10 times, as says the Mishnah. And you have to understand, the 10 times were not simple times. They were times of rebellion. They were times that people wanted to get rid of Moshe Rabbeinu, wrongfully so, not rightfully so, in a negative way. But when you're dealing with 3 million Jewish people, like they say, one of the prime ministers that came to America, I think, and met one of the presidents, this was perhaps when I was a baby, maybe not even born, and the American, it was with Ben Gurion?
Yes.
Okay, and he says, I'm the president of the United States, says, I'm the president of 250 million citizens back then. And the Prime Minister of Israel says, I'm the Prime Minister of 5 million prime ministers. You understand? So imagine yourself the anguish that Moshe Rabbeinu experienced through the years of his leadership. Even today's reading, the parasha of today, the fourth day of Pesach, what is all about? The sin of the golden calf. And how Hashem, God forbid, wanted literally to dispose of the Jewish people, and tells Moshe Rabbeinu, you know what? Let me press the reset button. I'm going to create a brand new nation, and this way I have good, faithful soldiers. But what did Moshe Rabbeinu do? No. Negotiated with God in order to save Bnei Israel. Another great midah from Moshe, found in the beginning of Sefer Shemot, Bayar Besiblotam. Imagine yourself a moment, the life of Moshe in Egypt. Moshe Rabbeinu is adopted by Batya, the daughter of Paro, the one who actually saved him. Moshe Rabbeinu is being raised in the palace of Paro. So basically, he lived a very comfortable, a very luxurious lifestyle. But what the Pasuk says right in Sefer Shemot, Bayar Besiblotam, what did Moshe Rabbeinu do? He left the palace, he rolled up his sleeves, and went to help his brothers and sisters that they were under slavery. Can you imagine that a person will do that? Can you imagine that a very wealthy person that has a very expensive car and knows that somebody doesn't have a car is going to say, take my car? Or you know what, sell my car and buy 5 cars and give it to 5 of your friends? Most likely people don't do that. Although there could be some exceptions in history, but the reality is that once the person is in such a luxurious lifestyle, he's not going to go down to the fields where the slavery was taking place. But yet Moshe Rabbeinu did it. Abraham, we mentioned him yesterday with the cities of Sodom. God wanted to destroy Abraham complains, Ahavti spe sadikim rasha? Where is justice? You're going to just destroy 5 cities? What if we are able to save people? And he started to negotiate with Hashem. 50 people, 10 per city, 45, 40, 30. Regretfully, there was no one person to be saved in those cities, but at least it shows the willingness and the goodwill, rather, and the sacrifice and the extra effort that Abraham Avinu in his time and Moshe Rabbeinu in his time, both of them developed a similar pattern. And that's what the Sfartem Lachem it brings. But, for example, we have another individual from the Torah, Noah. Okay? Noah also was facing the challenges of the flood, of the Mabul. But yet, if we look at Noah's reaction, we barely see any reaction. When did Noah reacted? After the Mabul. After the flood, Noah reacted. If he would have reacted before the flood, maybe things would have been different. And that's why there is a title given to Noah. The Pasuk says in the Aventura, Ki Noah Zotli. Why do you call Hurricane Noah? I'm sure you know this. In South Florida, we have seasons through the year that we have hurricanes, and each hurricane has a name, correct? It goes by the ABC. When it comes to the flood, the Pasuk calls it the flood named Noah. Why do you call the flood named Noah? If Noah was saved, it says because Noah was not active to prevent the flood. He was told he was a soldier. Abraham Avinu says, even though I'm also a soldier, but why should I don't do anything? That's called in Hebrew, hishtadlut. Hishtadlut means making an effort. A person needs to try. A person tries, and then God does the rest. As we say in the prayer of the Tashlich, Vidhuli petach kehuto shel mahad. In English it means, open for me like the eye of a needle. You see, a needle has a tiny opening, but once you're able to pass the thread even 2 millimeters through that hole, the entire spool, it's called spool? Spool, right? Okay, good word.
Very good.
Okay.
Vocabulary is excellent.
Thank you. The spool, the entire, that could be maybe 500 feet, it goes through. God says, leave the door open for me. Remember, there was a hotel commercial, we leave the lights on for you. God says, leave for me a tiny opening. As long as there is a tiny opening, I'm able to enter your neshama. What a beautiful, beautiful concept. There is another concept before we go into the interpersonal relation. So far, this is between God and the person. Now, there is another word connected to the Sefirah of today, Nesach. It means victory. Every day, we wage a war. And I'm not talking about the world of business. That's a different type of war. I'm talking about our inner war with the Yetzer Hara. The Yetzer Hara that comes from all sides with all kinds of shticks, all kinds of ideas, and tries to persuade us to separate or to take a step back. I know him well. He pays me a visit every day. Yeah, even today he came. Every day. I'm a good customer. So he comes back.
I guess I asked twice a day.
Yeah, no. When I say every day, I mean several times a day. But he doesn't take time off. It's an unbelievable employee. He doesn't take time off. So it says that even on the person day-to-day life. Let's say that a person wants to eat something dairy, but he ate meat 3 hours ago. And suddenly the Yetzer Hara says, you really chicken, right? You from Germany, you yeke, you have less time in the timing of the meat and dairy. And the person says, no, I'm a Yehudi, and you have to follow the halakha. Or a person wants to buy a suit, right? And it's a known fact that this brand of suits contains sha'atnes. So, but he got it on a discount price. Instead of being 700 a suit or 1,000, it's $299. And one inner voice says, buy it. It's a bargain. The other voice says, I'm going to buy it, but I need to test for sha'atnes. So if it has sha'atnes, in the fabric, we know that it cannot be fixed. If the sha'atnes is on the collar, on the shoulder pad, on the lining, is fixable. But if the sha'atnes will be the actual fabric of the suit, what are you going to do? You're going to take every single gray thread and every single white thread and every single blue thread? Impossible. You're going to do shehita to the suit. So it says here that when the person is experiencing internally these wars with the Yetzer Hara, and the person remains strong and does what he needs to do to continue in the connection with the Kadosh Baruch Hu, that is called a victory. That is the Sefirah of today. Nesach. Now, Ben Adam lahavero. How do I bring all the messages that we described so far that we are able to affect other people's life? So one example says here, do something that will be engraved in the mind of your children. For example, imagine yourself, you travel to Israel. Okay? Now traveling to Israel is easier. And you take your child, your son, your daughter to get a beracha from a big hacham, from a big tzaddik. And you make a lot of noise about it. Let's dress properly. You don't go in jeans to see tzaddikim. I'm not talking about me now, okay? Matchav, okay? You're in Florida vacation mode. Okay, but let's say you're going to go see the chief rabbi of Israel. You're going to go clean, you're going to go presentable, and you take your son, and you take your child, and you take a picture with a hacham, and then you frame the picture at home, even though this happened when he was 6, 7 years old. As he's going to grow and see this image on the wall, is going to be engraved in their heart, which unfortunately the opposite is the same. Sometimes people carry trauma from their childhood, God forbid, right? And sometimes the person doesn't even know that they have it, or sometimes it manifests itself in many different ways. So the Sefirah of today is telling us that whatever we do to our fellow person, should always be on the parameter of Hesed. Parameter of Hesed means in a kind, in a benevolent way, and make sure that it has a good lasting effect on the person's life as well. And that's why we find in the Omer, the Pasuk writes, Omer tenufa. What's the meaning of tenufa? Tenufa means waving. There were certain parts of the ceremonial sacrifices in the Bet HaMikdash that required this waving. Now, what is this waving all about? So the Ben Ish Hai writes that actions in this world, how simple they may appear to be, they do create a great reaction in the heavens. For example, the Keruvim. A few weeks ago, we learn about the Mishkan, the tabernacle in the desert, and eventually the Bet HaMikdash. And one of the kelim of the Mishkan was the Aron HaKodesh. And on top of the Aron, they were the cherubim, the, let's call them angelic faces of children. Poresim kenafayim lema'ala. They will lift the wings up to the head, ufenehem ish el achiv, and they will see each other. So what is this description? Angelic faces, the faces of children looking at each other, lifting the wings. So the wings, says one of the commentators, that the wings, we know that they are utilized for a bird to fly. And flying means climbing higher in space. The earth is on the ground and they fly certain amount of height. Some birds higher, some birds lower. But one thing is for sure, the life of the person also requires flying. But I don't mean flying in the physical way. In the flying in humans means climbing the ladder of spiritual growth. Like a child knows that a child is a child, and eventually he will become bar mitzvah, and eventually he gets married, and eventually he becomes a father, etc. So a person needs to know that in Avodat Hashem, you cannot say, Dayenu. Dayenu was for the night of the Seder of Pesach. Dayenu, it's enough, it's sufficient. In the night of Pesach, we say to God, thank you for every single one of these miracles. And even without the 15 miracles would have been made, even if one would have been made, we would have been very satisfied with it. But when it comes to godliness, you cannot say, my father never did it, and therefore I don't do it. Your father never had a laptop, and an iPad, and an Apple phone, and a Tesla, which you can win if you buy the Correo ticket. That's a different situation. Yeah, of course. 300 tickets only to be sold. 150 are already gone. Very affordable. 1,200, or you get the money, 100,000. You support Torah learning. Beautiful. The other day, somebody bought a ticket and donated to the Correo.
Wow, that's beautiful.
Says, if I win it, I don't want it.
Wow.
Keep it to the Correo. Beautiful. They got a couple of tzaddikim like that. Baruch Hashem. So let's continue. So if your father didn't have a Shabbat mode oven, but Haz v'Shalom, if you buy an oven today that is not Shabbat mode, you're going to have Shalom Bayit issues. So we understand that from a generation to another generation, things would have been difficult. You know, Matzah Shemura, 50 years ago, who had access to Matzah Shemura? If they had Matzah, they were happy. Today, no, I want Matzah Shemura, extra thin, gluten-free.
Full of fiber.
That's it. Metamucil in a matzah. $50 a pound. Okay? Hamavlil, right? Today is in a different generation. Today, access to Torah, it's unbelievable. You know, 30 years ago, you wanted, 10 years ago, 5 years ago, you know, we had no the technology that we have today. You know, iTorah and Zoom classes and all these things that we have today. As the years go by, it becomes easier and easier for the person to be able to develop such a thing. And then it brings one more message, that part of helping people, it's also to give a good advice. And sometimes advices are essential for life. I believe Shlomo HaMelech says, Chokhmah berov yo'ez. Wisdom can be achieved when you ask for an advice. It's not embarrassing to ask for an advice. The opposite. You want to do something, you want to do something good, you want to talk to somebody that is experienced in that field to help you, go through the challenges, but at least you know where more or less to go. So it says that also many advices that we give, you don't see the result immediately, but you will see the results many years down the line. That's why if you cannot give a good advice, don't say anything. Let's say somebody comes to you and asks you for an advice. I say, you know what? It's an excellent question. I don't know what to say. Sometimes it's better to say, I don't know what to say, than say something that you don't want to say, I don't know what to say. There are people who have a difficulty of saying, I don't know. There are people who cannot say, I don't know, or I am sorry. So therefore it says, be careful when somebody comes to ask you for an advice, if you're able to do it, and it says, Aitzah Tova, you're able to give the person a good advice, go ahead and do it. And sometimes the advice is not business related. Sometimes the advice could be in education. A parent or a couple that is experiencing challenges with their children, or a couple that is experiencing challenges in their marriage, etc. That's part also of the Nesa and Hesed of today. One interesting message. Remember, yesterday we quoted a great rabbi from Israel, or 2 days ago, that he gave a class on Shalom Bayit. And he said, you need to say to your wife, how many times a day I love you?
10.
10 times.
At least.
At least. Yes.
After 8, my wife thought I'm crazy.
Yeah. Okay, I see that we are all on the
She
same
wouldn't
boat.
hear the recording.
Yeah, okay.
More than that, they think something's wrong with them.
Yes.
Too much.
Yeah. What did you do?
She was saying,
That's it. So you know what the exercise of the day is? Reassure a loved one of the constancy of your love. And when you say to your wife, I love you, okay? Do this exercise today. Call your wife in the middle of the day. I know it's too difficult, but you have to try. Right. He's just singing you the love. Okay? So you call your wife in the middle of the day from your busy Chol HaMoed days. Okay? Some people are working, some people are not. Okay? And call and says, I call to say that I love you. What will be her reaction?
she think it's somebody else.
Yeah, no, don't call it. Don't call it in public. So it says here that love also needs to be eternal. Love needs to be eternal. In marriage especially. That's why, God forbid, when it comes to divorce, which many times cannot be avoided, what the Gemara writes, Mizbeach zorea alav demaot. The heavenly court, Shamayim, shed tears. Says, how come you got divorced? I believed in you, as the song says. I believed in you. That's why I put you together. So what prompts divorce? Personality, issues, mental health issues, God forbid, chas v'shalom, different scenarios that God forbid can lead to divorce. And I don't want to go into something that is negative. But the message of the Sephirah of today seems to imply that when you profess your love to your wife, and I'm not telling you that I love you is the only thing you need to do. Sometimes you bring flowers, sometimes you bring a card, sometimes you bring a gift out of nowhere, You don't have to wait till anniversary or birthday is the day to do something. You do it out of the blue. You have no idea the chesed that you are doing to her neshama. Because the wife wants to be the star in the husband's life. The star in what sense? That the husband is happy with her. Even though that some ladies may be tough cookies. No comments. Yeah, you're looking at me, I'm looking at you, you're laughing, I'm laughing. I'm Mevin Yavin, right? Okay. Yeah. Yani those who understand and read between the lines. Okay? But at the end of the day, the wife wants to feel that the husband is happy with her. That's what's written in the Shalom Bayit. And that's why criticism or complaining in a marriage is not healthy. Occasionally something may have been said or done, but as a way of life, that anything doesn't go the proper way should have gone, the man says a comment, a negative comment, this is like you're trying to heal a wound that's bleeding with salt. You're trying to extinguish fire with gasoline. So that's why it says the exercise of the day is reassure a loved one of the constancy of your love, that you love your wife on a regular basis, not only mikveh night, but throughout the marriage. Marriage has ups and downs, of course. No one is immune. But as Rabbeinu Chaim Vital said on the first day of Sefirat Omer, one of the main purposes of marriages is for husband and wife to become one, to mold each other to the other spouse. And we use the example of the diamond. You polish the diamond, but what do you need to use to polish a diamond? Another diamond. So you have one diamond called the husband, one diamond called the wife. They polish each other, they learn about each other, they supplement each other, they complement each other, they treat each other in the proper way. Gradually, everything falls into place. And then you have a beautiful relationship, as the Gemara writes, Ish Beisha Zachu. What's the meaning of this Gemara? And with this statement, Beli Neder will finish. Ish Beisha Zachu. What's the meaning of this sentence? Husband and wife, right? Zachu. What's the meaning of the word Zachu?
One.
Worthy.
One. Worthy.
Worthy.
What else? Okay, good answers. But you know what Zachu means here? They purified themselves.
Shemen Zayit Zach.
Shemen Zayit Zach. Lezakot. Shemen Zayit Zach. What does it mean? Ish Beisha Zachu. Each one of them. The husband refined himself and the wife refined herself. Shechina Sheruya Benehem. Hashem holds their hands. You know what it means, Benehem? Between them. Let's say, I'm him, and he's here. Hashem in the middle. Okay? That's what it means, Shechina Sheruya Benehem. God says, I like to live in your home. I like to be in your relationship. And guess what? Once Hashem, so to speak, blesses the couple and is with the relationship, meaning to say, is happy in the way the home goes, that's it. You hit the jackpot. But in order for us to achieve that, we need to develop our self-refinement, which is, in a way, the ultimate goal of Sefirat HaOmer. Tizku Leshanim Rabot. Thank you for the generous sponsors of today's breakfast and class. If there is people that ate matzah, you can do zimun right after Kaddish Rabbi Hanania. Rabbi Hanania ben Akashia Omer, רצה הקדוש ברוך הוא לזכות את ישראל. לפיכך,
ג'נב.
הרבה להן תורה מצוות שנאמר,